Hey guys, welcome. Hi Christy, how are you today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for being on today. I'm a little bit nervous. You're super awesome.
Why? Don't be nervous.
Yes, I love listening to you. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. I'm actually really excited to be here. Um, I do have to say, so it was actually a surprise. And I was like, oh, sure, he has a podcast. How amazing. I love listening to podcasts. And I'm a podcaster myself. So I
At
have my
this
own
point, you're a
podcast.
professional.
Huh?
At this point, I consider you a professional.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Maybe we can start by you telling us about your podcast.
Yeah. So for those that don't know me, my name is Christine Osoria. I'm an author, motivational speaker, a women's empowerment, and a business coach. I'm a mom of three first, a wife, and so I have to say I'm very multi-passionate. I have a podcast. I'm rebranding my YouTube. I have a book out. It's called Rosalia, the Honduran American, and I'm a women's empowerment coach. And one of the reasons actually why I started my podcast was to share stories. I'm a big believer on not a big believer, but I just love listening to people's stories because I feel like everyone has a story to share, and everyone's story can help another person. And when I started this podcast, it was really just to share, tips and share amazing people out there who are doing amazing things in this world, right? Whether it's a mom trying to juggle life as a professional worker, or a dad, being an actor, or, it's anyone out there that has a story, and anyone that I grew up in, because I really feel that as humans we celebrate so many celebrities and stuff like that, but we don't really celebrate the people around us so much. And it's important to hear the people around us in our community and see what they're doing, because they can just inspire us just as much as everyone else who's like famous.
Exactly. I mean, that's my thinking exactly with why I do what I do. But I another part of that is that I find that those celebrity voices, they leave out a lot of things,
Yeah.
and they look at things in one particular way. And I think
Yeah.
regular people have more dynamic, more diversity that you don't really hear coming from mainstream voices.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
Yeah, and
I completely agree.
I think that's the future of where we're going because like can you relate to Jennifer Aniston? Can you relate to J Lo? You know, you need people who are like you know, struggling to pay bills and
Yeah.
pick up after childcare.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, we need to see more people who look like us doing things, right? And I'm actually happy that you're even bringing that up. Because I'm from the Bronx. If you guys hear any background noise, it's because I'm from the Bronx. So it's kind of, it's kind of loud here. The weather's getting nice, but you know, I feel that we need more people to stand up, and more people who look like us, whether it's Latinos, or blacks, like women of color, men of color. Like, we need to show our community and our people that we can be so much more of what we have been taught, or what we've heard that we just need to be. And I'm saying this because, again, I am from the Bronx. I come from immigrant parents. My parents are from Honduras, and I went to a regular school here in the Bronx. And you know I'm not sure, Alexi, if you're from the New York, Jersey. I wasn't too sure, but I know that growing up with limited resources as an adult, we feel that everything is always going to be limited. And I feel that as us trying to make a difference, we have to be the ones to show the next generation that they can, and show people who look like us that they can, that not everything has to be limited, you know? And I'm a big believer that like we have to really stand up and, you know, share our voice, share our story, share our passion, share our gift, because there's a kid out there, or there's a mom out there wanting to see more people like us making it out there, but in however way and form, if you know.
I think, you know, one of the things that I like the most is your energy.
Thank you.
I feel like you really mean it,
Yeah.
and that's a beautiful thing. And I think, you know, everyone has good intentions.
Hmm.
They get sidetracked. I feel
Hmm.
you're not gonna let anything stop you.
Yeah, I can. I can. And I'm only saying this because for every time that I get up, and this is something that I share with my clients and anyone who I work with, or whether you see me, you know, doing a speaking engagement, it's like every time I get up, I wake up, I think about who can I help out today, right? And how can I make a difference? Um, but also, I always think about those people who are looking up to me,
Hmm.
you know, whether it's my kids, whether it's my husband, whether it's my mom or my sister, um, or that young kid who's reading my book, right? I think about them, and I think about, if I stop today doing what I'm doing, like it's showing them that they can't, you know? And I wake up with that mindset, that intention every single day, thinking about that person that's looking up at me and seeing Christine doing it, right? And seeing Christine going after it. Um, and I want them to see that they can. Like, that's really the purpose of everything that I do, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a book, whether it's coaching, is just showing others that they can. And because also, you know, for so many years I doubted myself, you know, and for so many years people have told me that I dream too big and I dream crazy. And I think that in the world that we come from, it's like I have to just prove it to myself, right? But I have to show others that it's possible. It's possible to be so much more what people have thought of, or what people have put a limit to you. And it's, if I don't show that, like it doesn't give that, I guess, um energy for others to do it too.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
I hear you talk about your mentor. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I have well, I'm a coach. So I currently I'm coaching women, but I had a couple of mentors obviously in my life. Um One of the first ones is actually my grandma, she was, aside from my parents, my grandmother was a big mentor of mine. She actually, you know, even though she's not here anymore, having, you know, doing a lot of healing, it, you know, made me inspire me to actually write my story of Rosalia. And I had my grandma in that book. Um, but in high school, I did have two amazing mentors, and thankfully for them, I was able to succeed. Right, and at 14, I had my job. Their names is Caroline Davis and Anthony Ramirez. He's
What
the
job
owner of
did
the.
you have at 14?
What happened?
What job did you have at 14?
At 14, I was working actually at an internship with Lehman Brothers.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, and it was because of Sobro. These two amazing people worked at Sobro. And you know, and because of them, I've learned so much. And they were actually one of my first mentors in high school. And they saw something in me that I didn't see, but I didn't realize it later on in life of how much they inspired me to make a difference. Because they were helping out the youth at the time when I was 14. They wanted to make a difference for the youth. And because of them, like later on in life, I was like, wow, like they made a big impact in my life. Because of them, I had a resume. Because of them, you know, I was able to graduate. I was a good student, but I was also going through my own personal things at the time.
Right.
And, they've inspired me so much. And from there, I took a lot of personal development courses, and I had my own spiritual healing coach, which helped me a lot in the past 3 years. And she, doing a lot of inner healing, helped me realize like what is my full purpose and what I'm really passionate about, which is a lot of writing, storytelling, and helping others.
Yes. Spiritual healing.
Yeah,
That sounds cosmic.
it does. It does. And, but I, it's like, I can't, I tell everyone, like, you have to experience it, because a lot of people have this whole woo-woo behind it. But it definitely helped me a lot in the past 3 years. As someone who has fought depression, as someone who just, I just needed to like figure things out, and that helped me a lot with healing. So, I'm big into healing, I have to say, in my own way. My number one healing is really now writing, but having my coach at the time helped me realize so much of my worth and what is possible for me in this world.
I think, I there's some so what I've noticed is that we all go through things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find that, I find you to be a vocal person, but I find that a lot of people aren't really vocal about it, or they
Mm-hmm.
keep it more quiet, and they're like, well, I don't want to talk about, my abuse. I don't want to talk about my trauma. I don't want to talk about the things I've been through. And then you realize everyone's been through like a whole list of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And a lot of people haven't really done the work to heal.
Yeah.
And healing is a lifetime process, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't heal in 6, 12, 18 months. But once you're aligned, then the healing can take place naturally.
Yeah.
So when you're out of alignment, you're still in the broken place. And once you get the realignment, then the healing process, you're able to see yourself on the other side of the trauma, and you're able to um, exercise and go straight through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Hold on. It looks like I got cut off a little bit. I didn't hear if you was asking a question. I'm sorry, because it looked like it got cut off.
Tell me about the CEO, My Curves.
Yeah, definitely. But to just piggyback about on the healing, right? Just a little bit. And for anyone who's not vocal, because there are a lot of people who are not vocal about their abuse, and I totally get it. And I've been there, right? I tell people, find different ways to work on the issues and the trauma that's currently happening with you. And there's many different ways that you can like, I guess not figure it out, but at least start somewhere, right? And I tell people all the time, like I tell anyone, like, write down how you're feeling, right? And what is coming up for you. If that doesn't work, there are people out there with amazing different groups that you can join on Facebook. And I think it's important for me to like share this, because as someone who's been through my own trauma, I had to find groups of women to connect with, right? And it took me a while to talk. Everyone sees me now. I was actually sharing this the other day. Like, everyone sees me now and they see this confident girl. But there was a time that I just didn't talk. I just couldn't talk, and I was so not, I have to say not broken, but I was just like, I didn't know how to express myself. And that is because I grew up in a family where you don't express yourself. Like, we shut down our feelings. And who am I to start sharing my feelings to the world, right? And I felt that I started doing writing and little bits of writing, and that's because I knew I needed to change. I had carried so much anger inside of me that it was affecting my marriage, and it was also affecting my kids.
Right.
And until one day that I woke up and I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't be mad at my husband for something that he didn't do in the past, or for how I grew up. So I had to find a way to work on myself, because I was realizing that it was affecting my relationships around me. And I had to like make that change. And if you're someone who's not vocal, maybe try writing your feelings, right? And maybe just write what is it that you're feeling. It doesn't have to be an essay. It could just be a sentence. It could just be a word. And then there are many amazing people out there that do great with their work. Therapy, of course, is another one. And I feel that you just have to find what works in order for you to work through this trauma, because healing is, I think it's an everyday thing. Like, people think it's just like, again, like you said, like 12 months, 6 months. It isn't. It's an everyday thing. And every day you just have to ask yourself, like, how am I gonna, what am I not gonna let affect me? And as you go through it, you work through the process little by little. So I had to share that because I really feel that it's important for each and every one of us to heal, right? Heal our relationship with our parents, heal our relationship with our marriage, our kids, our relationships with ourselves. Mm-hmm. It's so important, and to answer your questions about CEO of my curves. Well,
since you said a little more, well, I think, healing is something that's like 90% of what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Healing. We inherit the trauma of the previous generation.
Yes.
And it's just a cycle of brokenness on top of brokenness, and it just keeps going. And like you said, in your family, there's a culture of not talking about it. Mm-hmm. So it just perpetuates. And then the grandkids don't talk, no one talks about it, and it just keeps going. I think we all know what each other's brokenness and pain is, and we all know how to help each other heal. But
yeah,
we have that culture.
Yeah.
And it's almost one of those things where if you see it, you just kind of look the other way, and our society doesn't reward people for doing the work. You're supposed to have a facade of strength. Mm-hmm. And if you were to show vulnerability, then, all hell can break loose for you.
Yeah. And I think, like, again, like, people see me and they're like, oh, Christine. And it's like, no, like, I had to find my own demons, right? It's like saying, like, I had to look at my husband, honestly, at one point, because I've been with my husband for 16 years. Mm-hmm. So I had to look at my husband and, like, tell him, like, what I was feeling and what I was going through. And even that hurt. Because for someone who has been with me for 16 years, you would think they know everything about me. But because, again, I wasn't expressing myself to him of what was hurting. You know what I mean? And it probably was nothing. It has probably had nothing to do with him. It has a lot to do with my past, right. And I tell people all the time, like, we are all, one way or another, we've all been affected by something, right, in our life. Whether it's a death, whether it is, something happened during your youth, but it's up to us, honestly, to make that change. Like, because like you said, we carry so much trauma from the past, a lot of trauma, and then we grow up with trauma, and then we bring this trauma to our own family. And it's really up to us. If we talk about making changes, it's really up to us to go, okay, where do I need help? And how can I seek the help to change this part of me, And for me, a lot of it was my relationships. I had to heal my relationship with my mom. I had to heal the relationship with my father. That was tough. I had to do a lot of forgiveness, and even forgive myself. Like, we don't talk about that a lot, forgive yourself, because sometimes we do things in our life that It could have been because of rage. It could have been because of whatever was going on. And sometimes we make choices in our life thinking it's good and it wasn't. And then we're hard on ourselves. So it's like, forgive yourself occasionally, right? For situations that probably you didn't think you was going to be in. And, but I'm only saying that because when you do forgive yourself and you do work on yourself, it helps you build a stronger you, and it helps you see yourself on a different level. But I really think that everyone needs to take time to do the work, because it is work. And it's years of trying to unlearn something, and it's something that's not spoken of too much. And I can only say that from my experience, working on healing has helped me be a better person, a better woman, a better mom, a better Christine, a better daughter, understand things that I didn't understand before, and made me realize how I want to build a different relationship with the people around me. So I mean, I could go on hours with this, but like I just feel that it's a topic that it's something that I think everyone should definitely consider one way or another, in whatever way you choose.
I started, so my major in school was psychology, right?
Mm.
And I ended up majoring in psychology because I was always a people person. I was
Mm-hmm.
always the person who would pull people to the side and start talking to them about their problems or what they were going through. And I was always the guy who would say, "Hey, what's going on with this?" Always. So, like, by the time I got to college, I felt like I had 10 years of doing that kind of thing. So it just
Mm-hmm.
made sense to me to go to school for that. But I think what has made a difference for me is that I'm a thinker, right? So
Mm.
the same way I'm a ear for other people, I do it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
So basically, you know, when I experience, like, the biggest thing in my life has been that my mom and my dad weren't together.
Mm.
And my father, he even though my they weren't together, he didn't do a good job of keeping me connected to the family, to his family.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
that created a major deficit, right? And so I had like 14 years of that, and then I went to live with him for 2 years. So from 14 to 16 I lived with him, and those 2 years it was rocky at best.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't hold it against him. I didn't hold it against him at the time or up to now, but I didn't hold it against him. It's basically he's been a single man, and then you throw him a 14-year-old. It's like, what do I do? It's
Mm-hmm.
a recipe for problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not that type of person going into it.
Yeah.
So that kind of, the 14 years, then the 2 years compounded the issue. And then I went into a situation where I didn't have my mom. And basically 16, I was pretty much like on my own trying to figure out things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think by the time I, like, fast forward to now, when I look back on everything I've been through, as much as you heal and you're able to embrace yourself and work on these things, there's something that you miss that's not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can't go back and have that 14 years of supportive dad that wasn't there, and have the supportive dad's family that wasn't there. It's just gone.
Yeah.
So a part of healing is just making peace with whatever amount of you is left.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. And, obviously you cannot go to the past, right, and make that change. But you can make the change now as an adult of how you want to move forward with your relationships, either with your dad or with your family or even with your kids, right? And I say this because for me, my grandmother, you know what I mean? My grandmother got sick, she caught a stroke, one evening when I was with her.
Mm.
And I was 16 at the time, and unfortunately, it created a chaos within my family, and it created a mess with relationships. And with that, I held that on as an adult, right? I was so angry, right, at God, I'll be honest, at the universe. I was so angry at my family for so many years because one, he took away the most amazing woman in the world from me. Even though I have parents, but I didn't have a really great relationship with my parents like that at the time. And then the whole relationship with my family, and like you, in a way, at 16, I had to move back with my parents.
Right.
And while my parents were always there was still that disconnect.
Right, right.
There's that disconnect because it's like, okay, Christine has lived with her grandmother for so long,
Exactly.
like, she's coming back home. So I totally get where you're coming from, and with healing, it's like, yes, you come to the point where you're like, you cannot go to the past, right? You cannot change that. But I had to come to a point where it's like, okay, how do I want to change the now with my parents? How can I now build a relationship with my family? How can I now build a relationship with my parents? My parents are still together, but I had to work through that. And that was tough because that meant that I had to also forgive, and not just forgive, but also understand where my parents were at that time.
Right.
And I think that's something that it's hard. I mean, it may be hard for so many people to understand, but like, it's like we are all in a journey, right? Mm-hmm. And my parents were who they were at that time.
Right. And you can't fix them.
And I can't fix that. I can only fix myself, right?
It's hard to have relationships with people who aren't doing the work.
Yeah. And you just have to meet them where they are.
Right. Especially when you're forced to deal with them, as an adult, you can say, I don't want to be around this person. I don't want to be around that person. But when you're like forced to see them every day and ask them for money, it's just like, it can be really, really toxic. And men, I think this generation has an appetite for healing that previous generations just don't.
Yeah, like I do have to say that, because I made a decision to do my own healing. Again, it was because it was a choice for me. Right. And it's because I just wanted to be different. I'm like, I cannot. If I could tell you, like, Alexia, there was years I was so mad. I was so mad at the world, I was like, this world sucks. And it's like, but I was young, what I mean? Right. And but I didn't want to bring that energy with my daughters, with my daughters at the time, because I didn't have my son at the time. And then I remember one day looking at them and I said, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot be angry at life. And they had nothing to do with it. They had nothing to do with what happened in the past. My husband had nothing to do with what happened in the past. He came after, but it's like me making that decision. I also had to understand that not everyone was going to be where I was. So I had to meet people where they are. And that was tough too, because it's like I had to meet my husband where he is. I had to meet my parents where they are. And I had to understand that this is my journey. And if I want to make a change, is accepting.
That happened, that when you began that journey.
What happened?
When would you say you began that journey?
So it happened about 10 years ago with personal development. It happened with personal development about 10 years ago.
2010, 2011?
I was, I was a little bit after college. So I had to say like 2011. Yeah, just about.
And you and your husband got together, you guys were really...
At 17, correct. So I've been with my husband for 16 years. So I've been with him since I was 17. And around 2011, a lot happened in 2011. Now that I think about it, I was graduating from college. It was like 2010, 2011. I was graduating from college. I just got my first position in an accounting firm.
You had kids
Huh?
at that time?
Yeah, I already had 2 daughters.
So how old were they at that time?
They were about,
in college. How old were the girls?
my kids were already like 4, 5, maybe 5, 6, around that. They were around around 5. They were young. Yeah, they were babies. So it was basically raising a baby, because I was, I was 20. What happened?
The age difference.
They're only a year apart, my 2 daughters.
1 year?
A year apart, correct.
All right. So you had 5 and 6. So
yeah.
how did you hold that together going through college with these young kids and all of that? Dealing with healing and the broke, like, how did you, this is like a storm.
Yeah. So I'm going to be really honest. When I was going to college and I was working, I was literally a robot. Right. I was a robot. So I didn't know about personal development. I didn't know about healing at the time. All I knew is that I had to be a parent and I had to pay the bills.
Where did you?
So did my husband. I worked at the time in the city. No, I was, matter of fact, at the time I was in the bank. I was working as a teller, and I was going full time in school at the time. So not only was I going full time to school, I was working full time, I believe, or part time, one of those two. I had my 2 daughters. My husband was working late hours because he's a construction worker, and so basically we were robots. You understand? And around 2010, 2011, when I graduated from college, because it took me about 4 to 5 years. It took me 5 years, I'm sorry. 2011, when I graduated from college, around there, I went through this phase in my life where I was so upset with myself in my life. Had nothing to do with my kids, had nothing to do with going to college. It was just, I remember this day like it was yesterday. I was going to the fitting room trying to find a dress for my graduation. And I looked at the woman in the mirror and I didn't recognize her at all, And I said, who the hell is this? Who is this woman? Who is she? Like, I couldn't even recognize her. Like, and it's me, but I couldn't recognize myself. And I saw anger. I saw crying. I was like, I was all over the place. And at the time I was also, I was not confident about myself. I've been married for over 5, 6 years. And, I had gained so much weight from my pregnancies. Right. And I remember asking my husband, like, what are you doing with me? Like, what are you doing with me? Like, I'm ugly. Like, I literally told him that. And he's like, what are you talking about? My husband always, like, he was always so supportive. Yeah. But he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, what are you doing with me? And I remember coming out the fitting room, and I was just crying. And I said to him, I was like, I don't recognize myself, And I don't know, maybe it was the fitting room. Maybe it was just a moment that I was just like, what is going on with my life? And from that day, some changes were made. Like, I was like, okay, I need to.
Graduation dress or?
What happened?
Was it like a graduation dress or?
Yeah, I was going for a graduation dress. But I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy at all. And a lot had to do with it also because I'm the first in my family to graduate from college. Right. And the main person that I wanted there, which was my grandma, the one who caught the stroke, wasn't there. And right. I was so upset with life, understand? Had nothing to do with my kids. It just had to do with my younger self.
Right. What was your religious background?
My family is Catholic.
Right. I mean,
yeah. So there was a lot of that too, you know? And even though I graduated college and I had my diploma and I have my kids and people see the strong woman, I didn't see that. I did not see that. I didn't see what anybody saw. I saw something completely different. And that then a couple of months later after that, that's when I started running because I wanted to lose weight. And I got into network marketing for health. So that's how kind of my healing started, with running. I found something and running helped me. Um, I didn't know what it was to be a runner. I wasn't athletic when I was growing up. Like, we couldn't do that. Like, you understand? My mom worked.
I think you have the classic runner story.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like, they weren't athletic, and they started running when they got to a point when, as an adult, they're like, oh my gosh, I have to do something.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of us started running, pretty much.
Yeah. And running, I knew I was a very angry person. People, like, a lot of people don't know about this, but like, I was a very angry person. And I would get upset with the little small things. And when I started running, I think it changed me, because I was like, why am I angry all the time? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why I'm so angry. And and also running helped me see another side of Christine, like help me discover another side of Christine. And I started enjoying it. And then my kids started saying, Mom, you run. Like, can I run with you? And that felt weird at
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
because I'm like, no, like, I don't want you to run with me. Like, I want this for myself. Nothing to do with them, but it's like,
Right,
this
right,
is for me. You
right.
know what I
Taking
mean?
over your life.
Yeah, yeah. Like, but then I think it was also because I never saw my mom do things like this.
Right.
So, why would I bring my kids to something that we're already a part of? Like, I deal with you all the time. I don't want to bring you into this, but I guess I didn't know it at the time. I just wanted to be selfish at one point, like, just to take care of myself. And that meant to do it alone. But then I started seeing that they love seeing mom run. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna just do this, right? Like, they see it, I'm gonna do racing, I'll figure it out. And I remember when I ran my first 5K, and they were there, and they were so happy to see me get a medal. And I never got a medal in my life. And I was like, I think I could do this more. Like, I think I like this. And they were so happy. Like, they were like, Mom got a medal, Mom got a medal. And I was like, yeah. And I guess just to seeing that joy in their face, I was like, okay, I'm going to continue. And as the years gone by, I have over 25 medals. They love that.
Race?
What happened?
What was that first race?
That first race was Run Like a Mother.
Okay.
It was a Mother's Day run.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I have to say, like, running helped me and discover myself, discover that I have so much power, discover that I am so much more than what I thought, and I have to say, if now that I'm thinking about it, like, running was my first part of healing. Right. I cried a lot. There was many times that, I would run alone and I cried. I cried because I didn't even know why I was crying. Maybe it was just because I had so much, again, I wasn't one to express myself. So right. I guess running helped me, like, let it out. Yeah. And, I would come home and I'll be like, oh, I cried, but I didn't know what the hell I was crying about. But, it was just, I have to say, like, looking back, like, that was kind of my form of healing, running, discovering this new Christine after 2026, around there, trying to figure out her world as a mom, and what running also helped me as realize the potential within myself. Because when I ran a 5K, then I started doing like 10Ks, and then halves, and then marathons. And I guess once I reached the marathon level, I was like, my goodness, if I could run 26 miles, I could do anything in this world. Like, I'm talking about anything. Like, and seeing that journey of myself in training, that's how I take my business. It's like, if I can do that, like, training, get one step forward every single day to the finish line, then I can do the same thing for my business.
Right. I mean, that's what they say, right? Anything big gets accomplished one day at a time.
Yeah.
And most people, they see the end result and they're like, oh my gosh, that's too big. And they kind of shy away from it even before, building one step at a time. So I have to say that as a runner, you just kind of realize transformation is possible.
Oh yeah.
And you realize that if you train for 9 months, at the end of 9 months, you're going to be somewhere completely different than you were 9 months before. And even if you don't know where you're going or how you're going to get there, every day you just get up and do the same activity over and over. After a while, you're going to make progress you never thought you could. And
Definitely.
that's built into the human mind, human body. It's a part of the thing that I think if you've been inactive as a person your whole life, you might not fully be in touch with that.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, like there's times when we stop, right? Like runners, like we have our weeks that we don't want to run. We're like, no, I just ran last week. Why do I want to run this week?
Yeah.
But even when you stop and you get at it again, it's like you just keep going and you try to keep going, and it's all about putting that one step forward. You know what I mean? Even with the breaks in between, like not being so hard on yourself and just keep moving. Because people, like going back to what you said, we all have big dreams, and that big dream scares us, right? Like just thinking about the biggest dream of your life scares you because you're like, it's impossible, right? But it's like you have to take baby steps, and you won't know until you actually try if it's possible. I tell people this all the time: you have to try. You don't know what you can do until you try.
Very scary.
You know, and because so many times we say no to something, and we're saying no to something that we don't even know. We don't even ask questions. We don't even ask what do I do to start? We immediately go to the no because it's not for me. But we haven't even tried it. So why are we saying no to something that we don't know? I remember when I used to think like marathoners were crazy. I'm like, who can do that? Like no one run a marathon in my family. I'm the first one. You know what I mean? Like I'm the first one in my family who's run marathons, who's gone to Berlin, and ran. But they tell me all the time, I can't do it. I'm like, who says that you can't? You know, when I first started this fitness journey, I started by walking. I was running, walk, walk a block, run a block, walk a block, run a block. And little by little, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to run 2 blocks
Right.
after I walked one, So it's just taking those baby steps and challenging yourself every single day, telling yourself, I can. Every single day, telling yourself, I'm going to try. Every single day, just showing up, being better than you were yesterday, better than you were last week, and better than you were a month ago. That's what it's all about.
That is what I love about running. And now I'm kind of used to it. And I don't even think about it anymore. I just instinctively do it. But yeah, running for me, it was same thing, like young middle adult, young parent with kids, and running and fitness was a way to discover myself. Discovering my potential in running helped me realize helped me connect more with my potential to do limitless things. And limitless things take work, right? You don't become Oprah overnight.
No.
You need to train for, I say, at least 10 years before you can build up enough of everything to get to that place where you can say, all right, I think I know something.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
But one thing I like about the run a block, walk a block is if you ask most people right now, can you run a block, walk a block? They'll say yes. And that's all it is. Whatever you can do, you just do that over and over and over and over and over. And if you come back to you 6 months later, you'll be like, wow, that's the beauty of being a coach, is that you see these transformations. Like that's the real paycheck of coaching. It's seeing people who didn't think they could do it. But
exactly,
we all know it's in all of us. And we live, like you said, we go through that robot and we're just head down, going to work and just not connecting to our potential and doing the daily work. And,
Yeah.
you're lucky that you get to a breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
That moment you had in the dressing room, what scares me is that some people never have a breaking point.
Yeah.
We just keep powering
We
with their
just
head
keep
down.
going. Yeah, and I actually said this in a podcast one time. I said, it doesn't matter where you grew up, whether you grew up in the suburbs, where you grew up in the projects, in the urban community, where you grew up with parents who live paycheck to paycheck. That doesn't mean that has to be your life.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I think it's something that so many of us need to hear, because my parents grew up with paycheck to paycheck. I grew up with friends who live in the project, and we know what we see in the projects, right? We know what it is to go to a school has no sports. You walk in, it's straight security, like you're going to a jailhouse.
Right.
So it's like we grew up with that, but that doesn't mean that that's how our life has to be, right? That doesn't mean that we have to listen to those people who have told us that we can't. Because I was told many a times, you can't be a journalist, you can't be a writer, just go to community school, don't go to university, that's not for you,
Right.
And if I listened to all those people, I would not be where I am now. You understand what I mean? If I listen to everyone that has told me that I shouldn't be doing these things, like I would not be where I'm at now, And listen, I understand what it is to be a parent and to be struggling for money. Like, honestly, like there've been many years when my account was on red. Okay. Like that me and my husband will wake up the next morning and we'll be like, so what are we eating today? And I'm like, I have no idea, babe, but we'll figure it out. And you know
Right.
what? It's Everyone has gone through that,
Right.
one way or another, right? Um, but it doesn't mean that that has to be your forever.
Right.
I understand what it means to be broke. I get it when it means that you live in the worst communities ever, but you can make a change. And I think what it is that with so many of us, especially those who have grew up in the Bronx and stuff like that, we don't see many changes, so we feel it's not possible,
Right.
right? And we become
Well, Chris,
robots
I
because
was gonna
we
jump in with this. You know
yeah.
what? Like, I consider myself a motivational speaker. Okay.
Yeah, you are. Uh-huh.
And the people who I do most of my motivational speaking on is my kids.
Mm.
And I tell you one thing, when I listen to what they have to say, I it helps me understand myself a little more.
Yeah.
So I've got to the point where we know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
We could all be millionaires if we did what we know we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
If you want to run a marathon, you got to wake up at 6 a.m. and on Saturday mornings. You got to go to bed early. You have to eat those lean meals. You have to do you have to do it over and over and over. You
Yeah,
have
and you have to say no, and like, see, like I remember one time I was training for, I forgot what marathon or what race I was training for, and someone said, hey, you want to go out for drinks? And I said, no. They actually said, hey, do you want to drink? And I said, no, I cannot have a drink. And they were like, oh, why? And I said, because I have to run tomorrow, and and it's not because I don't want to drink. Of course I do. And I mean, there's days that I don't mind drinking, right? And if I don't got to wake up the next morning, but I know that if I drink today, tomorrow my run is going to suck. And I don't want that. So I drink after my run. I celebrate, then. But it's like, it's saying no because you know that there's a bigger goal for you, right?
exactly.
Saying no because sometimes you're just gonna have to say no to events, to maybe doing something because you just have a goal,
Right. Being a
and there's
people
nothing,
pleaser, you have to say no.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I know many people are like, oh, but I can't say no to my family. Like, and I understand that. Again, I'm a mom of
Then
3.
you're not gonna accomplish your goals.
Yeah, yeah. And and one thing I have learned is like I speak to my family and I let my kids know. I tell my kids, I was like, guys, let's just say, right? Like, let's just say they wanted a movie night, right? When I don't mind doing movie nights, obviously, because we do them at least once a week. But sometimes they want 2 to 3 times a week, and I'm like, guys, I can't. And I tell them, I was like, guys, I just can't because I'm just trying to finish on this. And they're like, and I'm like, but I promise, like tomorrow we'll watch the movie or whatever. When like I rearrange my schedule just so that I can accomplish this one goal that I have.
Right.
But again, it's just I had to also learn how to speak to my family and let them know about my goals.
Yeah.
Because when I started talking to my family about my goals, they were like, okay, mom is on a call, mom is writing. So I know not to disturb mom at that time because she's writing,
Right.
or she's doing something. And they get that. And they don't feel bad and they don't feel like I'm neglecting them because I speak to them. And after my stuff, I go and hang out with them. But the thing is that sometimes it's just making sacrifices for right now for your better future.
Right.
And I get it. It may sound like, oh no, but sometimes no, it's not that sometimes we're just gonna have to do it if you want to reach a goal in your life.
Right.
And be okay with that. Because at the end, there is a bigger prize out there. Like I can tell you, Alexi, like, when I first wrote my book, I would sit down and I would write, I would write at 5 o'clock in the morning, I would write late at night. And every day I would wake up and I would say, this is for my future. This is my, I had to like say no to some events. I was so mad at times because, I was working through editing and stuff like that. Or I had to do something for my business. Right. But I know that at the end, it was going to be a big payoff, and a payoff is maybe like a better event out there or maybe, or whatever it was. But
you miss out in the short term, but you're always going to get that bigger reward later.
Yeah.
The reality is we know that's true. You don't hang out for 6 months, you're going to save money. So, all of these things, we know it, but at the end of the day, we're a sucker for the short-term gratification.
Yeah. And, it's the same thing for the marathon. Like, I had to put in the time, and I didn't care who didn't like it, but this was for me, and because like I have a goal, like I tell my kids, I'm like, one day when I die, I just want you guys to like give my medals to the kids in the hospital. That's what I tell my kids, like, keep some medals, but the rest of the medals give them to the kids in the hospital. Right. I said, because what I want is for whoever's in the hospital, when they receive my medal, when I die, I was like, they know what's possible for them. Right. And so it's like, I do my runs, obviously to show my kids something, but because it's like, I have this goal, like, I want to like spread my medals everywhere, so, but it's things like that keeps me going. Right. Like right now I'm writing my first novel, and that may mean sleeping late. That may mean, telling my kids to go to my mom's house just so I can write, and not spend a day with them. But they understand. And, I have to remember, like, why am I doing this? Every single day, like I'm doing this because it's for them. It's for, it's for the future.
Did you always want to write?
That's so I've always wanted to write.
Yes.
But there is a but, of course. Yeah. One of the reasons why I never pursued it early, I never went to like English, took an English degree or anything, is because I've always struggled with writing. As a first generation, my parents being immigrants, English is not the first language. So I struggled a lot, with essays, and many teachers didn't like the way I wrote because they said, I didn't know how to write. And that pulled me away from my dream, even if as a journalist. Right. I've always wanted to be like journalism. I love storytelling since I was young. But I didn't pursue it.
Channel 9.
Yeah, like I wanted to be, I think at the time it was like Fox 5 News. And I think it was because of like Mike Woods or someone else. Like they just inspired me. So I was like, I want that, you know? And I've always thought being in journalism could be fun. Like you hear so many stories that I'm like, oh my God, like who doesn't want to know these stories? Like I do.
Journalist.
But I also love being in the library. Like my mother was an advocate for the library. So I lived there for many days after school. I'm a big like storyteller, but I never pursued writing. I never went to school for English or nothing like that because of what teachers had said. And it's not until like 2 years ago that I said to myself, I can't ignore this passion inside of me. I have to like do this. And I wrote my first book, and I'm actually in the process of writing my first novel. So I'm super excited about that.
All right.
And, you know, and I'm just like, you know, I love the writing. I love getting into my own little world
Chris,
and writing.
let's take a really, really quick break and we'll come back with the writing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.